What's up, guys? How are you? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into another episode of the Daily Juice Podcast with me, Matt Peralt. You guys can follow me across all of my socials at Sports Talk Matt. This podcast being brought to you by friends at DraftKings. Well, that could have been a 3-0 night last night. That could have been an awesome night. Melt City. We were due for one of those. DePaul goes to overtime. They led for most of the game. Goes to overtime and they get crushed. Providence outscores them 12-5 in overtime, so we lose that bet. And then we had a shot with Michigan, maybe to overtime. They had a shot to put the game into overtime, maybe cover the 4 there. Doesn't happen. 0-2 in college basketball, but we do get the NBA play right. Orlando at plus 7.5. They lost, but they had the lead the entire game. And speaking of melt, they melted. Bucks win. Orlando covers. So a 1-2 night for us, down 1.2 units. I'm going to stay away from the college slate tonight. I do not like anything in college basketball. I do have 2 plays in both of the NBA Cup games happening tonight. And then I have a college football future bet. I told you I'd start making these. I'm going to make it. I got to a number that I like coming up here for the national championship. I'll explain the bet coming up here in just 1 second, so stick around for that as to who I think will win the national championship, or at least what the value play will be for the national championship here with the 12-team bracket starting on December the 20th. But before we do that, DraftKings Pick 6 sponsor this podcast. New players who use the code JUICE at sign up, you play $5 and get $50 instantly in Pick 6 credits. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. 18 plus in most eligible jurisdictions, but other age and eligibility restrictions may apply. Valid only in jurisdictions where DraftKings Pick 6 operates. Pick 6 not available everywhere, but including and not limited to New York and California, Ontario. Void where prohibited. For more terms, go to pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Okay, let's start with the Knicks at home. There's a trend here in the NBA Cup at home. New court. These teams play hard. New York's at home against Atlanta. The New York Knicks this season straight up are 8-3. Straight up this year at home. Atlanta, they are 6-6 on the road. They are 9-6 straight up against the East, but New York is 12-6 against the East. These teams, well, have played one time so far this year. Atlanta beat the Knicks at home. Beat them. Atlanta won at home. 121-116. This is the second matchup, but this game is now being played in New York. This number is 7. Now, this number opened higher. It's been bet down. Atlanta is 6-6 on the road this year ATS. They have not covered in their last 2 games. They are 10-15 overall ATS, but New York's not much better. They're 11-12-1 ATS, but they are 6-4-1 at home this year against the number. They also have failed to cover in their last 2 games, but they did win against Toronto. They lost to Detroit as 8-point favorites at home, lost by 9. That's not great, but in the games before that, they laid 14.5 against Charlotte, won by 24. They laid 5 against Orlando, won by 15, and they won 12 against laying 12 against New Orleans, and they won by 33. Those are all good signs here, even though the loss to Detroit wasn't good, and then winning by 5 on the road against Toronto as 8-point favorites, but it's a road win for the New York Knicks. I think both teams that I'm picking to win tonight, I think the NBA Cup means something. Atlanta's not very good. They do have some 2 crazy wins. I mean, they beat the Boston Celtics. That was a huge win for them. But Atlanta also has lost to Boston by 30. So it was a revenge game. They beat Cleveland twice, which was nuts. I mean, they're the only team to have wins against Boston and Cleveland so far this year. So Atlanta can rise up. Atlanta can do some magical things with Trey and company. But I just think New York at home, the total is 238. You gotta if you don't like the side, an over bet has to be considered. 17-8 to the over Atlanta, 14-10 to the over New York, 6-5 at home to the over, 7-5 on the road to the over for Atlanta. If this game was in Atlanta, I absolutely would bet the over because they're 10-3 to the over so far this year. But on the road, a little bit different. But the last 2 games and 3 of the last 4 have gone over for Atlanta. Same thing for New York with 3 of the last 4. But in a game in which elimination happens, if we're approaching the 2:30 mark with like 4 minutes to play, these teams can take the air out of the ball. Like they can just play a lot slower, and then we don't get to 238. 238 is a big number. That's a lot of points. I think if we get close to that number, though, the New York Knicks are going to cover this spread, and the New York Knicks are going to be able to score, push tempo, turn the ball over. Neither one of these teams plays great defense, which is kind of funny for the Knicks, but Karl Anthony Towns has been so good for the Knicks. I just think if you break this down from just a person versus person situation, I just think Cat's going to have a big advantage here tonight, and I can't wait to see what happens. Atlanta has won 4 straight road games. He loves to go back to MSG. He loves playing in this environment, but the Knicks know that. I mean, the Knicks aren't stupid. They know what he wants to do. Knicks are 8-3, as I mentioned, straight up so far this season. When Trae Young comes to town, you know that they are going to be fired up. The crowd's going to be on him instantly, and they want to blow their doors off, frankly. They don't want to play around here. And I think Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson both are going to have big games here. I'll lay the 7 points. Knicks -7 at home up against Atlanta for 1.1 units. Game number 2 is bet number 2. Golden State Warriors on the road at Houston. This number is 2. Total is 222. Houston, 9-3 ATS at home this season. Houston against the West is 10-6 so far this year. They're 16-8 ATS on the year, the Rockets. They've been tremendous. Golden State, though, equally really good. 14-9 ATS, 11-7 against the West, and 7-5 on the road. Golden State has played Houston 2 times. They beat them on the 2nd of November in Houston, laying 5. The Rockets were favored. They lost by 6. Against Golden State on the road, they again were favored. They were laying 4. They lost by 6. It's time for the Houston Rockets to actually live up to this, and the Rockets to get after it. Golden State is unbelievable. But this is a big game for the Rockets. It's a big game for their fans. Last night, both home teams won. I think both home teams win again here tonight. I think the Knicks take care of business at home and maybe a double-digit win over Atlanta. And then the Rockets find a way to beat the Golden State Warriors and knock them out. The Warriors are playing for championships, not NBA Cups. They don't care about this, clearly. They have won 2 of their last 3 games. They've covered 3 of their last 4 games, but on the road, they lost to Denver. On the road to Phoenix, they lost to Phoenix. On the road to San Antonio, they lost by 10. They've lost 3 straight road games, the Warriors have. Remember when the Warriors went through that swoon last year and the year before where they couldn't win a road game to save their lives? I think this might be starting a little bit here for the Warriors. At home for the Rockets, they beat OKC as 1.5-point dogs in their last game. They won outright. They lost to Portland, but they had beaten them the night before. So they've won 3 of the last 4 home games. They beat Indiana. I think this game just means more to the Rockets. Good atmosphere here in the NBA Cup. Houston -2 for 1.1 units. So we're going -7 with the Knicks. A little bit of a high number, I know, but I think the Knicks win the game going away. And then I'm taking the Rockets -2. Like last night, home teams win. 1-1 is what we saw from a home team from a number perspective. Let's hopefully get a 2-0 here with wins at home for teams in the NBA Cup. At home to roll here in the NBA. Now, to college football we go. So Georgia is going to have to play this without Carson Beck. By all indications, this is going to be a Gunnar Stockton-led offense for Georgia. Here's the thing. I thought the kid played incredibly well, cold off the bench. Yes, the 1 pick was really bad. But the bracket sets up so perfectly for Georgia. Look, I think Notre Dame will beat Indiana. I told you guys before, I don't think Indiana is for real, but I would love to see Indiana to play Georgia because Indiana will kill Georgia. Georgia will kill Indiana, excuse me. So I don't care who wins that game because we're going to the Sugar Bowl and we're going to the South. And we got the Irish on the road in an environment that's going to be all Georgia fans, okay? Yes, there'll be some Irish fans there, but if it's Indiana, it's going to be all Georgia fans, okay? That's a home game for Georgia. They don't want to win that building. Georgia's advancing to the national semifinal, okay? The other side of the bracket for them is Penn State, SMU, or Boise. I mean, really? Penn State, SMU, or Boise. Penn State with James Franklin, who can't win a big game to save his life. 1-17 straight up against top 5 teams, and Georgia is a top 5 team. SMU may scare Penn State, but I think Penn State beats SMU, and Penn State will beat Boise State. And then Penn State's playing Georgia. Georgia wins. Georgia's in the national championship. Okay, will they win the national championship? I don't know, but they're in there. First game will be easy. Second game will be more difficult. But Penn State, I don't think they move the football. I don't think Penn State can run the ball on Georgia. I think Georgia's defensive line will eat against Penn State. So if that happens, it's all on Drew Aller, and then it's interception, pick 6 time. It's strip sack fumble time. It's let the Georgia defense go nuts. I don't think the Georgia offense needs to do very much in the playoffs. It's the defense that I think is going to be the biggest difference. When they get to the national championship game, okay, we can talk about hedging. But Circa Sports has Georgia at 6-1 to win the national championship. I think that number's wrong. I think Gunnar Stockton's going to play. Here's this quote that came out this week from Trevor Etienne on Stockton, the star running back for Georgia, talking about what happened on how confident Stockton was coming into the game. He said, it just shows the preparation. It goes to show like when he's taking reps, mental reps, he's locked in, he's paying attention. And that speaks volumes about him because he's not QB1. He could be down, but instead he takes advantages of the opportunity that he gets. And I'm glad that he was able to come in and help us get the win tonight. Stockton's not the first guy to be asked to do this. Cardell Jones led Ohio State to a national championship in 2014, coming in for J.T. Barrett. Tua Tagovailoa did it for Jalen Hurts at halftime of the 2018 championship game against Georgia, where he led the Tide back to win the national championship. Stockton's going to step up here, and I think Stockton's going to be fine. I don't think we're going to see Carson Beck, and to be honest, I don't want to see Carson Beck. I think Stockton's better. The ball comes out faster. The arm, he spins it, man. He's tougher in some ways. Beck is thin. Beck doesn't take a lot of contact. This Stockton kid looks for contact. I know the pick was bad, but you're giving Kirby Smart in that offense and Mike Bobo. This Stockton kid went to Georgia because he wants to run the Mike Bobo offense. It's why he's there. He knows that offense inside and out. He's been waiting for this opportunity, and now he's got it. I think his teammates are going to rally. I'm good with it. I hope it's Stockton the whole way over Carson Beck. I've told you guys before, I'm not a big Carson Beck guy. Interceptions and decision-making. And look, the wideouts aren't great, but the swing passes were hit in stride. The screen passes were right on time. I was really impressed with Gunnar Stockton and the way he played coming in cold like that. The bracket sets up so perfectly. On the right side of the bracket, I have no flipping idea. I think Texas beats Clemson. I think Texas beats Arizona State. And I have no idea because I think Ohio State beats Tennessee and then Oregon beats Ohio State on a neutral. I think they get revenge. I think they win that game. But I don't know. Ohio State could win that game. It could be Ohio State against Texas. Texas is the odds-on favorite to win the championship. There's no value there. It's plus 350, plus 360. There's no value there betting Texas. They've got the easiest trek, just like Georgia. I mean, you tell me it's Georgia, Texas 2.0. That's not crazy. The right side of the bracket is so much more difficult. Oregon got so screwed by the committee. It's incredible. They gift wrapped this for Penn State to then go take on Georgia and get housed by Georgia. Like, it was a gift for Penn State to get there, and then it's just another big loss for James Franklin to go up against Kirby Smart and company, okay? Again, I like Penn State to beat SMU. I like Penn State to beat Boise, and then I like Boise, and then I like Georgia to go ahead and beat Penn State. But I don't care who comes out of that bottom of the bracket. Georgia's getting to the championship game. Georgia plus 600 to win it all. give ourselves a nice hedge opportunity. Georgia makes the national championship game. They're not going to be plus 600. Tell you that right now. They're not going to be plus 600. So 1 unit on Georgia to win it all. All right. Plays for today. Knicks -7 for 1.1 units. Rockets -2 in the NBA Cup for 1.1 units. And Georgia to win the national championship at plus 600, 6-1 at Circa Sports here in Vegas for 1 unit. Those are the plays for a Wednesday's Daily Juice. My name is Matt Perrault. Follow me across all socials at Sports Talk Matt every morning. Wherever you get your audio or your video podcasts, it is the Daily Juice presented by DraftKings.